sometimes on the Queer Money podcast and Queer Money podcast follow-ups, we talk about sex. Other times we talk about life insurance.
Woohoo!
Today we're talking about
Can
the latter.
you guess which one?
And so we have a question for you. Yes or no? Do you have life insurance? And if you're a gay man, you may or may not have life insurance. If you're a trans person, you may or may not have life insurance. If you don't have children, you may or may not have life insurance. But we're here to tell you that everyone, regardless of your sexual orientation, gender identity, or your family situation, you need to have life insurance. And that's what this particular podcast is about. And today's Queer Money podcast follow-up is about. So on Queer Money episode number 19, we talked with Mark Sayer of Haven Life. And Haven Life is an insurance company. It's a subsidiary of Mass Mutual. And we had Mark come on to talk to us about why it's important for all LGBTQ people and gay men, regardless of whether or not you have children, whether or not you're partnered or married, that we all need to have life insurance. I think... I think the traditional perception of life insurance is a little bit old and stodgy. People think that I don't need to get life insurance unless I have a partner or a spouse. And at the time that we interviewed Mark, marriage equality had just happened, so that discussion was coming up for a lot of folks. But then there were a lot of folks who weren't getting married who were like, do I need to have life insurance? I don't think so. Or they think that I only need to get life insurance when I start to have children.
Yeah.
And it's important to share that life insurance today is not at all like what your grandfather's life insurance was. Things have changed a lot. Life insurance has become much more inclusive and much more comprehensive and provides much more coverage. In fact, on episode 139 of the Queer Money podcast, we talked about how people can get life insurance if they have HIV. That is a possibility.
Right.
And we also talked in an article on debtfreeguys.com titled How to Find Transgender Life Insurance is for transgender folks and how they too can get life insurance and what the nuances are that they should know when they're looking for life insurance, whether it's before transitioning or after transitioning.
Yeah. It's interesting. You may not know a lot about the background of life insurance, but really life insurance to a certain degree is almost... these companies gambling that you're going to live a long time, right? The idea behind life insurance is you will continue to pay your monthly payment towards your life insurance, and over a long period of time, it is less and less likely that they will not have to pay out more money than they take in. Really, it's kind of this gamble that you're going to live for a long time. So one of the things that they really try to do with life insurance is they try to exclude as much of the risk as possible or charge people more for the more risk. So that's why, for example, when you get life insurance, one of the big questions is, are you a tobacco user? Because evidence shows that individuals who use tobacco, especially smokers, will die younger. So they want you to live longer because they're going to end up making more money or have to pay out less, right? So that's maybe the reason why in the past they were more likely to exclude individuals who were transgender, individuals who were HIV positive. But the world is changing in its view of what kind of risks that these companies should be taking on or ways that they can take it on and minimize it. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why we get a little bit excited about how the world of finance is changing and adapting, especially towards the LGBT community.
Yeah, exactly. And specifically with HIV and transgender folks, Mass Mutual as well as Prudential are kind of paving the way for their support of the community and trying to provide services, comprehensive services with life insurance for both those demographics. Now, it's not perfect. There's still a lot of hurdles to get over with. And as Sa El shared with us on episode 139 of the Queer Money podcast, it's not that they don't want to provide more support. It's just a very slow moving industry. Mm-hmm. And so really the best way to try to get things moving along is if you are HIV positive and you're looking for life insurance, if you are a transgender person and needing life insurance, contact any life insurance company you can and keep letting them know that you need coverage too. When you're tired of putting up the fight, maybe end up at Mass Mutual or Prudential for the time being until more and more companies have that kind of coverage. But what we want to do today is provide 3 reasons why gay men need to get life insurance today, regardless of their situation. Before we do that, though, please remember to give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel and set notifications on this channel so that you know that when the Queer Money Follow-Ups go live, you can participate in the conversation because we would like to chitty chat with you.
Yeah, exactly. So what are 3 big reasons why gay men, and we're going to specifically go towards gay men because that was the conversation, we kind of headed a little bit more down that path in that conversation with Mark on episode 19 of the podcast, but also I think John and I have a little perspective from that angle there.
Are you gay?
Yeah, right.
Weird.
So one of the big reasons why we believe that gay men need to consider and get life insurance is that more of us are now ending up in family units, right? In the past, most of us were, for better or worse, in disjointed family units, right? We weren't necessarily true quote-unquote families. We may be people occupying the same space, but legally now we
and having sex.
Right, yeah, right. Well, we could get really bad with that occupying the same space there. But anyway.
We did tag this as for adults only.
Exactly. But more of us are actually getting married. And because of that, we are creating family units. Whether you have children or not, that family unit does come with some financial obligations, right? So that's why Mark encouraged individuals, especially individuals who are married, that they should be looking at having anywhere from 6 to 10 times their annual salary in life insurance. Most of your employers do not cover you anywhere near that. I think that when
3 times typically.
So when we worked for Schwab and then I worked at Great West, both of them automatically covered you at 1.5 times your annual salary. And then there was the option to bump that up to an additional 2.5 times.
Yeah.
It was really cheap, but again, not anywhere near what is needed for individuals when it comes to life insurance.
But definitely something you want to take advantage of if you have that benefit offered to you by your employer. So whether you do or not, you still want to have a net total rate of 6 to 10 times your annual income.
Right. And really the whole idea there in this particular case, why you want that replacement of money or replacement of income is if something happens to you, is your spouse going to be able to cover all of the bills that you have jointly once your income is gone? Really, the vast majority of us, when we go into these kinds of family units, right, we purchase a home, assuming that the 2 of us, bringing in a combined income, can afford that home. We purchase cars. We purchase other things. We take vacations. We charge up our credit cards. All of that stuff.
We have children.
Yeah. All of that is something that we do as a family unit. And if one of us all of a sudden is no longer a participating member of that family unit because we pass away, that income is lost and it needs to be replaced.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you have children, not only do you want to be able to provide the financial support for your remaining spouse or your children, but you want to reduce their anxiety. They're already dealing with their loss of you. Having their loss of the income that you and the financial security that you provided is even much more exponential. So you want to sort of abate that if at all possible. The number 2 reason to make sure you get life insurance, regardless of your family situation, is to protect your family, your remaining family, from creditors, and that could be your spouse, it could be your children, it could even be your parents, depending upon your financial situation. Even though you pass away, the mortgage is still going to be due. Even though you pass away, your credit card company lenders are going to still want to be reimbursed for the credit card debt that you have. Even though you pass away, if you have private student loans, you're still going to need to repay those.
All that stuff doesn't just poof automatically disappear when you pass away.
And it gets transferred on to the next the remaining kin. So that could be your surviving husband or husbands. That could be your children. It could be your parents in some situations. We talked about on episode 19, I think you brought up that there was at that particular time, there had recently been a story when a young woman passed away prematurely. She was like 22, 23 years old, and she had $80,000 in private student loans still to pay back. And the banks went after her parents because they co-signed for her student loans. She didn't have any life insurance to help her parents pay that debt off, and so they had to come up with this money out of their own pockets, and they weren't financially prepared for it, and they were of an older age. They were about ready to retire, and so this totally derailed their retirement strategy. So you want to help your family, avoid all that added stress by getting this life insurance. Which
this one is very interesting. Whether you or especially if you're not married, if you have student loans that anyone has co-signed on, you have an obligation to them to make sure that if something happens to you, God forbid you get hit by God forbid you get hit by a bus, get into a car accident, COVID, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that you're not passing that financial obligation onto those individuals who co-signed on that. Because as John mentioned, you could end up wrecking their financial future. So, and especially if you're young, if you're 25, 26, 28 years old and younger, $25,000, $50,000 in life insurance is going to cost you as much as a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So
a month.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, exactly.
not how much money you spend at Starbucks each month, but one cup of coffee is the cost of life insurance for a month.
You're gonna be looking at your life insurance policy costing you probably about $5 to $10. Yeah. Wouldn't you rather have that responsibility of $5 to $10 a month than throwing tens of thousands of dollars of financial obligation on your parents or whoever co-signed? Yeah. Well, there are examples of grandparents who co-sign on student loans, and then the grandchild passes away, and those individuals literally end up going destitute, and you don't want to be the one who does that to your.
And again, they've already have to deal with the loss of your loss. You don't want to compound that with leaving them with a financial burden. So that's a number 2 reason why you want to get life insurance, regardless of your marital, financial, or sexual situation.
All right. So number 3, this one is a little bit more about fun because of what you can do before you pass away for folks after you pass away. So we believe that it's really important as members of the LGBT community to leave some sort of legacy for the community. And that is one of the best things that life insurance can do for you. Mm-hmm. You can get a life insurance policy that then allows you to give tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to the charities and nonprofits that you really want to support. And maybe you aren't necessarily able to support them in that kind of manner now, but when you do pass away, it is a way for you to then give them a huge income boost. And we know those charities, especially those LGBT organizations that serve the community, oftentimes they're doing that on a shoestring budget. They need our help.
Yeah, exactly. And then the final, the sub reason to that is, a way to leave a legacy is that more and more people aren't really having funerals; they're having end of life celebrations. So you could leave a nice fat $20,000 to your friends and say, "Hey, I'm dead. Throw me an amazing party, celebrate my life, have some great music and amazing food, and let me go out with a bang." That's a great way to make sure people don't forget you.
Right. You can have one kind of like, what was it? Didn't Karen have end of life celebration for Stan when she thought Stan had passed away on Will and Grace.
I think so. And then he did die.
Right. So you can have that, or your friends can have that same kind of celebration. You can go out fabulous and on top there.
Exactly.
Right.
And then we have a bonus reason for why you want to get life insurance. Another reason to get life insurance is that more and more life insurance, and if yours doesn't offer this, make sure you ask for it, come with an accelerated death benefit or an accelerated death rider. And what that allows you to do is if at the end of your life you reach a terminal situation, you've got cancer, AIDS, HIV, COVID, whatever, and you need some additional money to help provide you medical support, nursing or doctor needs, you can actually tap into your life insurance before you pass away to help cover some of those expenses. And that might offset some of the where some of the money comes out elsewhere in your finances, or your parents or friends or family having to help support you because you can't support yourself. It might help alleviate that as well. Yeah. But that's only terminal coverage, and there are certain situations, they're only available for certain situations. Certain benchmarks have to be met before that can actually go into effect, but it is one way to offset the expense of your passing.
Yeah. And the nice thing about that is, well, I shared a statistic, I think it was a couple of days ago on the Queer Money Follow-Ups, that roughly, I want to say it was 62% of individuals retire before they want to retire because of health situation. They're no longer able to work. And a lot of times those are individuals who are at that point of terminal illness where they're not able to work and they need some sort of support. This may be able to allow you to live out those last few months or even year of your life in a much better situation rather than being basically constrained by your finances.
Exactly. So those are our 3 reasons plus a bonus on why you should go out and get life insurance today if you're a gay man or anyone else. So thank you for joining us for another Queer Money Follow-Up. Here's your Queer Money Follow-Up takeaway from this episode. Despite what I just said about going out today and getting your life insurance policy, your first task is to subscribe to the Queer Money Podcast at deadfreeguys.com/QM. Then let us know in the comments section below if, yes or no, you have life insurance right now. We would love to talk with you. Then join us tomorrow for Queer Money Follow-Up episode 20 when we talk about Queer Money Podcast episode 20. We discuss the economics of being trans with our friend Andy Tremonte. Finally and lastly, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, set notifications on this channel so you don't miss the next Queer Money Follow-Up and you can join in on the discussion, and then continue the discussion, as we said below, or in the Queer Money Facebook group. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow.